The gentleman from Charlottesville, Mr. Toscano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for a point of personal privilege and a motion.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen in the House, while you all are spending a lot of time at the beach getting your tans, I'm having a nice encounter with a saber saw that falls from the tree and hits my nose. And, of course, my friend Delegate Lingenfelter made some comment about cutting my nose off to spite my face, but I'll leave it at that. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, last Saturday, an icon in the civil rights movement and a passionate defender of the voiceless and the powerless, and a former constituent of mine, Julian Bond, passed away in Florida. He was 75, but you'd never know it to look at him. He had that youthful appearance about him, but he also looked very dignified in the process. And one of the reasons I think he always looked so young is he surrounded himself with young people, activists, students. You might be aware that he taught at the University of Virginia for almost 20 years and spent a lot of time at other universities around the country. Because I think he recognized that the change that had to come in the country had to come from young people. And he was committed to making that change. So let me take you back 50 years or so and have you imagine a place in Albany, Georgia, one of the most conservative areas in the country, before the voting rights bill had been passed. This was in early 1960. Julian Bond was 20 years old, and he helped establish what was then known as the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, because he was committed to nonviolent change. Probably because of where he grew up. He went to school in a Quaker high school, and he learned a lot about the teachings of Gandhi. And that group grew and grew. And in 1965, at the age of 25 years old, he offered himself for elective office and was elected to the Georgia Senate. He was elected at 25 years old, and if you see the pictures, he looks like a little kid. You can imagine, all of us, when we first walk into this room, how we feel. And you can imagine how he felt when he sat to take his seat and then was summarily dismissed from his seat because he had the temerity, the gall, to speak for racial justice and to speak against a war that took 50,000 American lives. He ran again in a special election, and he won again. And again, they tried to deny him his seat. So he sued, and it went to the Supreme Court of the United States. And in the case of Bond v. Floyd, the Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, said that he had a right to take his seat. He was elected by his peers. Now, a lot's happened since then. 30 years ago, he helped found the Southern Poverty Law Center with Morris Dees, and they brought so many civil rights cases across the South. He was chair of the NAACP from 1998 to 2008. He taught at the University of Virginia, and all of his papers are there, in case you're interested. And finally left in 2012. Those of us who knew him and his wife, Pam, remember him for his dignity, for his quick wit and his sly smile. He had one of those. And his thoughtful passion. Martin Luther King said that the arc of history bends towards justice. Julian Bond gave that arc more than a little nudge in his time and pushed it along the way. So, Mr. Speaker, today I move that in the honor and memory of Julian Bond that we adjourn in his honor and memory. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Charlottesville, Mr. Toscano, moves that when the House adjourn today, it adjourn in the honor and the memory of Julian Bond. As many as favor that motion will please rise. That motion is agreed to.